Let's be honest, you don't really want to hear my intro, so when you know it's Logan, let's go. So before we start, I want to quickly say that this is a spoiler-free review, and I will be doing a spoiler-filled review, which will come out in the next few days, because I just want to talk about this movie and go in a bit more in-depth with the film. But Logan is directed by James Mangold, and it stars Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart in their last film playing these characters. And before I give you my thoughts on the film, I want to quickly talk to you guys about my backstory with the character of Wolverine. Now, pretty much up until I was about 12, Wolverine had always been my favourite superhero. Now it's Batman, but it doesn't matter. Wolverine had pretty much always been my favourite superhero. Bryan Singer's X-Men was in fact the first superhero film I ever saw, and I always watched the X-Men animated series, X-Men Evolution, all of that. I grew up with the character of Wolverine, and Hugh Jackman's portrayal of the character of Wolverine is to this day, in my opinion, the best depiction of a superhero by an actor ever. He is Wolverine, and Hugh Jackman, in my opinion, is one of my favourite actors, and Wolverine is by far his definitive role, and I love the character so much. I even loved him in X-Men Origins. He was by far the best part of that film. Hugh Jackman knows the character back to front, and he shows it in this film, because this film is brutal. If I could describe this film in one word, it would be brutal. It's brutal in its action scenes, it's brutal in the way that it treats its characters, both before the film, in the backstory, and throughout the film. It's brutal in the tone and the setting, but most of all, it's brutal in the emotional scenes, because this is by far the most emotional superhero film I have ever seen. And to be honest, when I came out of this film, I felt that this was more than a superhero film. The last time I felt that way was when I saw The Dark Knight. And I'm not saying this film is as good as The Dark Knight, because it's not. This film does have problems, which I'll get into later. But this is an incredibly hard-hitting film, and The Dark Knight, in my opinion, I don't see it as a superhero film. I see that movie as a straight-up crime drama. And this film, I feel, is a western. You can really tell that James Mangold, the director, is going for something a little more personal, a little less world-ending type stuff, and he's definitely going for a much more sort of western feel, western tone, western vibe, because there are a lot of references, there are a lot of things in this film that make it feel like you're not really watching a superhero movie, you're watching a western. And James Mangold's direction in this film is amazing, and this is, in my opinion, the most accurate depiction of the character of Wolverine and the character of Charles Xavier and all the rest of them we've ever seen in movies. And James Mangold really knows and appreciates the material that he's working with, and he also sort of puts his own spin and his own sort of take on the source material, which I think is very good. But he never takes it too far, you know, to a point where you sew Deadpool's mouth shut and makes him look like a walking condom. Never like that. This film is extremely accurate to the source material, but it still has a feeling of independence and individuality. Now, Hugh Jackman in this film gives, in my opinion, the best performance we've ever seen from him. And Wolverine, and pretty much all the characters in this film, are in a state, in a place where they are just, there's no hope left inside them. Like, pretty much they've just given up on life. And Wolverine, he's sort of like dying for reasons that I won't spoil for you. His healing isn't working that well anymore. Like, his claws don't come out properly, and then like he has to like pull them out because they don't always come out to like the end. And he's literally lost all hope. He's given up, and so is Xavier. You know, he's had like Xavier's got like brain cancer or something like that, and he gets these seizures, and Logan's taking care of him, and that's his only purpose left in life, is to take care of Xavier. And Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart sell that so perfectly. Both these performances are Oscar worthy, and they're just perfect for what the film is trying to capture. And the rest of the performances in the film are very good. They're all top-notch, they're all on point. I think this film, from an acting standpoint, is perfect. Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, though, their performances in this film are just heartbreaking. And in many ways, this film reminds me of an older film that came out a long time ago called Children of Men. And that film and this film is basically about this guy who's just beaten up, and he's kind of given up hope, and he's been given a special sort of mission to sort of transport this girl from point A to B and that girl who may or may not be sort of special. And it also takes place in a very realistic sci-fi setting that's not too far into the future. And if that's a very good film, Children of Men. So if you want to watch a film like Logan, if you've seen Logan and you want to watch something like that, I suggest you watch Children of Men. It's very good, and I think you'll enjoy it because it is very much like Logan. Also, this film addresses and fixes, I guess, a problem that I've had with. It's like a minor problem, but it's a problem that I've had with films and video games to a certain extent, and this film addresses that, and I'll talk more about that problem in my spoiler video, but it's pretty satisfying. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. This review is going to be completely spoiler free, like I said, but I do feel that that little bit was pretty satisfying. And let's talk about the action scenes, because that is what most of you want to know and what we all have expected, because this film is rated R. And so I think we've never really gotten a full Wolverine sort of berserker moment where he just rips people to shreds. And in this film, it's so satisfying. If you thought Deadpool's violent, you ain't seen nothing yet, because the violence in this film is perfect in every way. And I think the action scenes and the violence have literally been ripped straight out of the Logan Wolverine comics and just straight up put into this film, because it's violent, right? I'm warning you right now, this is probably one of the more violent rated R films I've ever seen. It's one of the more violent films I've ever seen, period. Again, if you've seen the film, you know what I mean, and we'll discuss that later in the spoiler review, but that's just all I'm going to say, because the action scenes are great, they're very well filmed, and they are so violent and so perfect. And one of the best compliments I can give to this film is it's very ballsy and very daring. It very much goes against the grain of your traditional superhero films, because this film, unlike most superhero films, it leaves a lot to the imagination. It leaves the audience space to interpret certain things, and it doesn't spoon feed you with information, and that's really admirable from a big blockbuster film like this. And again, I feel like this is definitely a more personal story, less so, like world ending, some Age of Ultron, light beam in the sky stuff. This is much more personal. And again, there's this one scene which I'll talk about. I won't spoil it for you, but there's this one scene that I really thought was going to be a dream sequence. I thought that, okay, they were going to wake up from this. Okay, he's going to wake up from this. No, oh, yeah, he's not going to wake up from this. So, and what they did in that scene, I think, was pretty ballsy. I didn't expect to see that in a big superhero film, and so I really admire the film for that. Now let's talk about the flaws, because there are two flaws, in my opinion, with this film. And the first is that there are a couple of leaps in logic. If you've seen the film, then I think you'll agree with me. There's this one scene where they're looking at a video on a phone. I think that scene doesn't make much sense in a realistic context. And there's also another scene which has really bugged me, and that was a scene where something happens to a certain character, and that character should have died, 100%. There was no chance of that character surviving what happened to that character. And then in the next scene, you see the character completely fine without a scratch, and that kind of bothered me a bit. And also, I thought that the film was a little too long. I think maybe 15 minutes could have been sort of shaven off the runtime, and that, I think the second act was a bit unnecessarily slow, right? If they'd shaven off about 10 minutes off the runtime, I think that would have done a lot more for the film's sort of rewatchability factor. But overall, Logan is a heartfelt, emotional, powerful, brutal, near perfect send-off to what is one of my favourite characters, not superheroes, one of my favourite film characters, which is characters of fiction of all time. And I'm going to give Logan an A. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned for my Logan spoiler video, which should be coming out within the next few days. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've seen Logan, because it's a very, very good film. Thank you.